All right, factoring. So before I teach you factoring, I need to explain what factoring actually is, okay? We've had plenty of times when we would have something like this. And I asked you to multiply it. When you multiply it, what do you do? Distribute, right? We take the x and we distribute through. What is x times x? What is x times negative 2? What is 3 times x? And 3 times negative 2? Okay, exactly. Then I look at the middle two terms and I combine them. What is negative 2x plus 3x? 1x. So I have x squared plus x minus 6, right? We all remember doing that last chapter? All right, so this is easy for us to multiply to. But what factoring does is factoring starts us with this and gets us to this. Okay, so it takes a, what is this called when it's got 3 pieces? A trinomial. It takes a trinomial and it writes it as the product. Product means what? Product means, starts with an M, multiply. The product of 2, what's it called when you have 2 pieces? 2 terms? Binomial. So it takes a trinomial and writes it as the product of 2 binomials. So that sounds really fancy, but it's just the backwards of what we've already been doing. The question is, oh my gosh, how do we do this? Okay, so I want you to notice something as you look at this. And in fact, I think I'll write this on the board so we can keep referencing. Rule x plus 3, x minus 2, x squared, bless you. We are literally going to do each step, but in the backwards order. Okay? All right, before I show you how to do that, let me refresh you on something. What does this mean? Greatest common factor. If you can do greatest common factor, you're not going to have any trouble factoring, okay? Because essentially that's what factoring is. It's continuously doing greatest common factor. So if I asked you these 2 terms, what is the greatest common factor of those 2 terms? 2x. Right? What if I had it written like this and I asked you to factor out the GCF? Remember when we did that? We took it out and wrote it on the outside. It'd be 2x and parentheses, what's left? What goes in the parentheses? X, bless you, plus 2. You take the GCF, you put it on the outside, and you divide each one of them by the GCF. That's right. Okay, that's a basic form of factoring, because if you were to multiply this back out, would you get what you started with? Yes. Bless you. All right, let's look at one more like that. If I gave you 9x squared plus 6x, and let's even say plus 12, and I said take out the GCF. 3, this time it doesn't have an x, why? 12 doesn't have an x. So I could take a 3 out, and what's left? 3 x squared plus what? 2x plus what? Remember doing this? We did it for a while where we took the GCF out. All right. Whew. Let's factor. I have you some notes I'm passing out for you to help you. This method that we're going to do is called factor by grouping. There are multiple ways. I've taught factoring many different ways in the past. I thought this way would be best because this way really focuses on the GCF. And since we've spent so much time doing GCF, I thought that it would be best just to build on that instead of something else. Now, I will tell you, all right, let's focus on the front, okay? Factor by grouping, so what this is this is a step sheet, okay, to tell you how to factor, all right? So I'm going to work through it as we go. You follow along, make notes as you need to, okay? And then we're going to do the 4 on the back together. All right, so we start out with 12x squared plus 14x plus 4. Okay. The first step in factoring, no matter what method you use, the first step is always, if you have a GCF, take it out. You won't always have one, but many times you will. Does this one have a GCF? Yes. Yes. What is the GCF? Do we all agree? All right, y'all got to speak up and you got to pay attention because this is tough. Do we all agree that all those can be divided evenly by 2? All right, so I'm going to take it out. When you take it out, it goes on the outside and you write what's left in parentheses. Tell me what's left. I just divided everything by 2. Do you agree? For step 1. Remember what we're getting. The goal is to get from here to here. Okay? So, right now, the one that we're doing is going to have a number out front here. It's going to have a 2 out front. That's okay. We're going to ignore that 2 on the outside until we get down to the very bottom, and then we'll add it back in. All right, so I want you to look first at just what's in parentheses. So I reference A, B, and C a lot here because standard form of a quadratic like this is ax squared plus bx plus c, okay? Meaning A is the number in front of x squared, B is the number in front of x, and C is the constant, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to take A and C. Don't include variables. They're just the coefficients. What is A times C? 12, right? Because that would be 6 times 2, which is 12. Do we all see where that came from? Okay. Here's the hardest part of factoring. You have to find 2 numbers. This is the hardest part, so stay with me. 2 numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 7. 4 and 3. Do you see where 4 and 3 came from? Okay, you multiply the first and the last together. So 6 times 2 is 12. So they multiply to these 2, but they add to what's in the middle. Those 2 numbers are 4 and 3. Think of it like a puzzle. Okay, 4 times 3. Now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find, remember I told you we're going to do each step of this but the backwards way? I'm trying to find what 2 numbers need to go right here. Okay? So I just found them, 4 and 3. So instead of 7x, because remember I'm going backwards, I'm going to write 2, remember just ignore that 2 that's on the outside right now. 6x squared Instead of 7x, I'm going to write 4x plus 3x, because that's the same thing, right? If you combine like terms, what is 4x plus 3x? So I just split this up this way.
Okay, so what is it?
Just ignore the 2 right there. It's still part of the problem. I didn't mess with it. I'm just rewriting the middle 2 terms. Okay? Now, we're going to start doing GCF over and over and over. All right? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to slash this problem in half. I call these slasher problems. Okay? Remember, ignore that 2 that's on the outside. Don't even worry about it. All right? This 2's on the outside. Look at these first 2 terms. What is the GCF of those first 2 terms? 2 what? 2x. Factor it out of just the first 2 terms. What's left? 3, that's right, Shaja, that's right. 3x plus 2. I'm just on this first one, underlined in purple. Remember how we've been taking out a GCF? Take the GCF out of just the first 2. Look at it as a separate problem, just 2 pieces, and take out the GCF. Divide. If you were to distribute this back through, would you come back to this? If I just came over here and I said, okay, class, 6x squared plus 4x, what's the GCF? 2x, right? Take it out, and what's left? 2x times what? Divide. Because I can divide the numbers in front by 2, and they both have an x. Ignore that number on the outside right now. If you want to erase it until you get to the last step, then erase it until you get to the last step. This is a confusing topic, I'm telling you. This is tough. That's why I said brace yourself before we start. This is the rest of the chapter is factoring. It's just, we're going to factor and solve. That's it. All right, look. Middle sign stays the same. Now, look at the second half. GCF? 1. If you don't see a GCF, you can always take out a 1, right? So if you take out a 1, what's left? 3x plus 2. Okay? Now, do you notice something that they share? Look at this whole piece right here. Do you see that? They're exactly the same. Here's what we're going to do when you get to the point when they're exactly the same. All right, this is still here. Don't even worry about that. You're not going to ever worry about that again right now. All right, let's just keep bringing it down. We're going to write 3x plus 2 one time, just once. And what's left? 2x and 1, right? I'm done. I just wrote what was left. You write what's written twice once, and then you just write what's left. 2x and 1. If they're not the same, you didn't factor it right. If you did all the previous steps correctly, then it will be right. Now, if I wanted to check that, it's a FOIL problem, right? But do you see how we went backwards on it? Here is what we started with before, and then we would go to this, and then we would come to this. I just did it in the backwards way. Okay? Oh. All right, they will not all have this number that sits out front. And they will not all, a lot of them start out with a 1x squared in the front, all right? I do need to show you what happens when the middle term is a minus, because that's a little bit different, but other than that, that's the only thing that changes a little bit. In fact, let me make a note here. Make a note on your whatever, if you're using the sheet for notes or if you're using your notes. If the middle sign, this one, if middle sign is minus, then keep that sign the same and change the last sign. And that'll make sense when we do one, what that means. But I'd like you to have a note there. So if you go back to look at your notes and go, oh, I need to remember how to do it. If the middle sign is minus, all right, we're going to do several together, so don't get upset if you don't understand yet. Flip over on the back of your paper. These start out easier and get a little bit harder as you go. I have my trinomial. What is my very first step to do? GCF. Does this one have a GCF? What? 1. If it's 1 in this case, when you first start, you don't have to write it, okay? The only time you're going to write 1 is when you're in the middle of the slash problem, okay? All right, so I'm good there. So my next thing, what do you do? Look at your sheet. This is the puzzle part, so how do I find out? What is A? Tell me what is A here. 1. A is 1. What is B? There you go. And what is C? So I need to multiply A and C together, right? What is A times C? 5. So I need two things that multiply to 5, but what do they have to add to? 6. Ooh, this is the puzzle. What multiplies to 5? 1 times 5. 1 and 5, that's right. Multiplies to 5, adds to 6. Right? So I'm going to take that middle one and I'm going to rewrite it as 1x and 5x. No, I'll switch when I go to factor. What do I do now? All right. After you get your two mystery numbers, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Slash it. All right. Let's look at it as separate problems. It's going to help us as we go through, right? The first two. What's the GCF? 1 what? 1x. If I take out 1x, what's left? Shaija, you got this. It feels good, doesn't it? Middle sign. And now look at just the last two. What is the GCF of 5x and 5? 5, right? I can't take 5x because the last one doesn't have an x, so it's just 5. If I take out 5, what's left? Yes. Good job. Do you see what they have in common? What? So if I take x plus 1 and write it one time.
You know what is the 5?
Yep. Good job. then what's left is x plus 5. What 1x? Yeah, I did. It's right here. And this is here. Because so you take what's repeated, that's one parenthesis. The next parenthesis is what's on the outside of each parenthesis. Here we go. Let's do number 2. Remember, this is easy. I mean, you have to watch me do several examples, but it's not going to click until you practice with it, okay? So we're going to spend lots of practice time with this, but I'm going to work through several. I want to make sure that I cover every situation that you're going to encounter before I set you to practice on it, right? All right, number 2, x squared. This one's harder because there's some minus signs in here. So I'm going to have to be very careful about signs as I work through this one, okay? What is A? What about B? -4. What? Just what? 1. Oh, yes, you're right, Kamar. You're right. I'm sorry. We always look for the GCF first. This one, I'm sorry. You're correct. This one has a GCF of 1, so we don't have to write it. You won't stop popping that darn gun. All right. Multiply A and C together. -12. Here's where you have to be careful. It's got to multiply to -12, but add to what? -4. Now, what's the only way to get a negative number when you multiply? A negative and a positive. You got it? Yes. 2 and -6. If you start struggling, start listing out the factors. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And then which one would you need to make negative for them to add to -4? Okay? When the signs start going negative is when it really starts getting tricky. Okay? All right. So we're going to change -4x to what? Plus 2x and minus 6x. Do we all agree? All right. What do I do now? Slash it. All right, let's start doing the GCF, and this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because of the negatives, okay? What's the GCF of x squared and 2x? 1x. What's left? Yep. Be confident. All right, this is a scenario we haven't encountered yet. When this sign is minus, you keep this sign, but you change this one to plus. Okay? What's the GCF here? Bigger. 6. What's left? Right? See how we changed that last sign? When the middle sign is minus, it makes that last one change. So we divided both of them by 6. Okay? That's really the only special rule you have to remember is when the middle sign is minus, it changes the last sign. Okay? Good job. X plus 2 is the repeated one, so it goes in front one time. And then whatever's left in front of each one makes up my second parentheses. So x -6. Yeah, but we're going to do several more of them together first. This is the hardest part. That's the hardest part. No, but it's the hardest part because trying to think of those two numbers, there has been many times when I've just had to list out all the factors because I couldn't think of them. I'm sitting here on my calculator going, I just can't find them. Because sometimes they get big, like as you get more advanced in factoring, and if you have 275 is what they multiply to, and they got to add to 15, it's hard. Yeah. You do. All right, let's do it. I'm going to skip number 3 for right now. Go down to number 4. Yeah, it matters. You'll factor a little bit in geometry. I know. I want to skip number 3. All right. First step is what? GCF. Does this one have a GCF? Ooh, this one does too. So if I take the 2 out, this is just like the one we did at the beginning. What's left?
X.
Minus 7x. Make sure you keep those signs. So tell me what is A? B? Close. -7. Keep those signs with them. And C? Gavin, take that off your head and sit up. 6. You are going to be very lost. This is tough for my honors algebra 2 kids. This is a tough concept. It takes a while. It takes practice with it. Now, once you get it, you got it. But it takes practice. This is what we do the first, probably the 3rd day of school in honors. All right. A times C is 6. Now be very careful. It multiplies to positive 6, but it adds to negative 7. 1 is, but close. The 1 and 6 is right. Worry about the signs. -1 and -6. Look what they have to multiply to a positive, but add to a negative. Okay, you got that's tough. Okay. All right, look, they have to multiply to positive 6, but add to -7. So what's a negative times a negative? A positive. But when you add 2 negatives, it stays negative. If you add 2 negatives, you get a negative. If you multiply 2 negatives, multiply. All right, so rewrite your 7. So I've got 2 times x squared minus x minus 6x plus 6. At the end, it's still got to add back to what's in the middle because you just wrote it a different way is really what you did. You did this. You're writing this step. We've been going this way. Now we're going this way, so we're finding this one. No, because you won't be able to slash it and find out what goes in the parentheses. All right, I know that I am losing some of you because I've been standing up here for a while, but I need you to stay with me. Let's slash it. Yep. What? All right, so I'm not worried about that 2 on the outside. Right now, I just want to look. What's the GCF here? 1x. What's left when I take that out? Yes. Okay. Middle sign is minus. What does that tell me? Change this one to minus. When the middle is minus, change the last. So, 6x and 6. What's the GCF? 6. What's left? Times. Okay, that 2, just write that on the outside, doesn't matter. All right, so Zaya says x minus 1. What other parenthesis? Because they were in one big parenthesis. Yes, that's right, Aiden, x minus 6. Because if these are gone, that's what's left. This makes what look easy? That's the thing with math. Factoring. All right, so this is not on your sheet. We're just working through. First step. All right, so you might want to flip your step sheet over and follow it along as we do this so you see how it goes. Step 1 says factor out a GCF if applicable. Does it have a GCF? Yeah. Oh, GCF of 1, so not really here, right? All right, so on to step 2. The A is 1. Okay, I want you to see that we are literally following these step by step on that sheet. Step number 3 says multiply A and C. Now, you don't know how we got that? Okay, so the next one says list all the factors. I don't make you list them all, but if it helps you to list them all, then list all of them. In other words, what multiplies to negative 15? 5 and 3. I could be negative 5 and positive 3 or positive 5 and negative 3. What else multiplies to 15? 15 and 1. I could be negative 15 and positive. Well, so of all those factors, nothing else multiplies to 15, right? Of all of these, which ones add? If you put a plus sign in the middle, which one of them would give you positive 2? That's the only one.
So all of them don't do that?
Negative 5 plus 3 would be negative 2. This would be negative 14. This would be positive 14. This is the only one that adds to positive 2. Kennedy, what did you say? Would it be easier to what? You could. Yeah, that's the way I do. All right. So I'm going to replace this 2x. I'm going to rewrite it, right? Because we rewrite with the middle 2. So it's x squared. This is step 6, by the way. Plus 5x minus 3x minus 15. Because 5x and negative 3x still gives me 2x. Okay? Now what? Slash it. What can I take out of the first two? 1x. What's left? Plus, keep going, 5. Minus, because I keep that middle sign, but change the last. Remember, if that's a plus in the middle, you don't have to change the last one. But because it's a minus, I do. Okay, what's the GCF then of, that's right, 3. What's left? What do they share? What do you use the same? X plus 5 times what? I can tell y'all are feeling a little bit better about it as we go.
I feel like once I get this test, I have some kind of
We'll see. We'll see. Let's do one more. Huh? No.
Can we do number 3?
So if you have like a
All right. Let's do one more. If you got this one, we'll stop.
So we got
Yeah, today you are. All right. Step 1. Samori, come sit down. I'm almost done. Shh, shh, boys. Step 1, what do I do?
GCF.
GCF. Does it have a GCF other than 1? All right. List out the A, B, and C. What is A? 3. What is B? How about C? Okay. Multiply A and C together. Like you're jumping ahead, but you're right, Zaya. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Multiplies to 12. So it's got to multiply to 12 and add to 6. And Zaya said, multiply to 8. And Zaya said 2 and 6, and that's right. But if you didn't know that, you could list all the factors and find the ones that add to 8. This one's nice because everything's nice and positive. I don't have to worry about different signs. I just go with it, right? All right, 2 and 6. Plus 2x. Plus what? Plus 4. What do I do now? Slash. Yes. 2 and 6.
Okay, so why did I
Remember, we split it up.
8 divided by
No. You just, these two numbers, the 2 and 6 you found, that's what goes in the middle. It's those same numbers. That's why you find them. All right. First 2. What's the GCF? X. Right? Shh. I know I'm losing y'all. This is the last one. Come on. Stay with me.
I would have to have a year like split it.
What's left, Zamoria?
I know you love X. So now you gotta do 3x. X.
Yes.
Wait, what is it?
No, you're not dividing it by 2. You just got 3x plus 2. You took an x away.
I'm confused now. Me too. Look at you, confused me. Oh. Why do you have 3?
Because it was already there. We just took an x away from both of them.
No, but I thought it was supposed to be.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. There's an X1 or 2.
You thought what was supposed to be 2?
No, I thought that 3. I thought that was supposed to just be 8. I thought that was supposed to
No,
Well, the
there's an
other
X1 or
one we
2.
did had x, but this one started with 3x squared.
Okay, so listen.
You take an X from that 3X squared. So we do it again.
Now that's gonna be 2. Yeah, plus 3x. Parentheses 3x plus 2. And put 2x plus x.
All right.